Have you ever experienced that empty or sometimes unbearable feeling of being alone or left out? Maybe your best friend has grown distant, or no one seems to invite you to lunch or parties. Perhaps you are socially inept, shy, lonely, spiritually adrift, purposeless. One way or another, we're disconnected, unplugged from the sources that nourish us. It goes wrong without saying that connection is essential to happiness, and science has confirmed its importance to our physical health. But what can we do when the lines of communication fray? How does one go about feeling closer to others or reclaiming a sense of belonging? This is why making connections is very important. If we are going to look for the definition of connection, it is a relationship in which a person, thing, or idea is linked or associated with something else. Making connections is just another way to describe learning how things are related to each other and how the physical world works. Babies make connections from the minute they're born, like knowing that when they see a bottle, it is feeding time. As young children grow and develop, they learn to make connections in order to understand and master their roles. We continue to make these connections all the way into adulthood, and these connections are what allow us to understand and be successful in the world we live in. These can be as simple as recognizing the need to bring your umbrella when going out when the sky is dark and cloudy. You build connections by gaining an understanding of how things are related. But how does making connections work in reading? How significant it is, especially when we are reading literature. Before we proceed to the answer, let me introduce you first this word, schema. What do we mean by schema? Schema is the background knowledge and experience readers bring to the text. And why should you care? Schema theory explains how our previous experiences, knowledge, emotions, and understandings affect what and how we learn. Good readers draw on prior knowledge and experience to help them understand what they are reading and are thus able to use that knowledge to make connections. Now let us go back to our previous question. What is making connections in reading? Can you connect with what you are reading? Can you imagine yourself in it? Does it remind you of things from your life? The process of reading is when a person reads a text and their inner voice makes connections between the words and their life and prior knowledge. The more closely the reader connects to the text, the higher the level of comprehension. At times, connecting is simple. For others, especially when the text is not in an area that the reader has background knowledge, comprehension is difficult. To be a better reader, think about how the story relates to your life. When connecting to text, readers should concentrate on their inner voice and connections. These are just some ways on how to do it. Visualize. Picture yourself in the story and think about how the setting and characters look. Focus on the characters. Compare them to yourself and people you know. Put yourself in the story and think about how to react and how you reacted when you were in a similar situation. Look at problems. How do they compare to problems you have faced? Ask yourself questions as you read. Think about how the story relates to your life and things that you know. When reading nonfiction, think about ways the information relates to what you already know. If you are reading a book and don't connect with it, ditch it and find one where you can make connections. Keane and Zimmerman 1997 concluded that students comprehend better when they make different kinds of connections. We have text to self, text to text, and text to world. What do we mean by text to self? Now let us proceed to text to text. Readers gain insights during reading by thinking about how the information they are reading connects to other familiar texts. This character has the same problem that I read about in a story last year. This expression would be an example of a text-to-text connection. Sometimes when reading, readers are reminded of other things that they have read, other books by the same author, stories from a similar genre, or perhaps on the same topic. These types of connections are text-to-text connections. Here are some text-to-text questions. What does this remind me of in another book I've read? How is this text similar to other things I've read? How is this different from other books I've read? Have I read about something like this before? Let's proceed to text to world. Text to world connections are the larger connections that a reader brings to a reading situation. We all have ideas about how the world works that goes far beyond our own personal experiences. We learn about things through television, movies, magazines, and newspapers. Often it is the textual connections that teachers are trying to enhance when they teach lessons in science, social studies, and literature. An example of a textual connection would be when a reader says, "I saw a program on television me." And to sum it up, again, these are the ways on how to make connections. Text to self. It refers to connections made between the text and the reader's personal experience. Text to text. It refers to connections made between a text being read to a text that was previously read. And text to world, which refers to connections made between a text being read and something that occurs in the world. Making connections to the text is just one way to help you understand what you are reading. As you connect the text to self, to other texts, and to events that have or are happening in the world, you'll have a clearer focus for using many of the other reading comprehension strategies. We want you to be actively engaged while you are reading. This means you're interacting with what you're reading and not just saying words on a page. And through this, you will gain a deeper understanding of the text when you make authentic connections.